Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Short & Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas. And by Wyndham Garden Lafayette.
From Cafe Vermilionville in Lafayette, we're out to lunch with creative business consultant Aileen Bennett. It's business, Acadiana style.
Hi, I'm Aileen Bennett. Welcome to Out to Lunch. Have you ever bought something on impulse? You see something you really like, you can't afford it, and you know it's crazy, but you buy it anyway. Maybe you've done that with a piece of clothing, a pair of shoes, even a car. How about a business? That's what happened to Camille Carloss. Her husband Dylan took her on a date to Alexandra Books. While they were there, they heard that the bookstore was closing. Dylan was the impulse purchase instigator. Camille was the voice of reason. They couldn't afford to buy the bookstore. They didn't even own a house yet. Then they came up with a brilliant compromise. They'd get some other people to go into this crazy venture with them. And that's how Camille, Dylan, and 3 other people ended up buying Alexandra Books. Camille Carloss, welcome to Out to Lunch.
Hi, thanks for having me.
One of the people who bought into the bookstore with Camille and her husband is Jori Bercier. Camille didn't know anything about owning or running a bookstore, so who better to turn to as a partner than someone else who also has no experience whatsoever in bookselling? Jori Bercier does have a lot of other skills, though. Jori has a graphic design business called Macaulay Media that focuses on working for non-profits who can't afford to market themselves. Jori leads mission groups and pilgrimages for magnificent travel. She speaks Spanish and French, has a master's degree in human health, and by the way, is an architect. Jori Bercier, welcome to Out to Lunch.
Thank you. You spoke quite highly of me there. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you sound much more impressive than me, who is outside.
Hey, Camille, you're the mainstay of Alexandra Books. You're manning the store most days. So, I'm going to give you some multiple choice questions. Which of these statements is correct?
Oh gosh.
A, running a bookstore is pretty much what I thought it was going to be. B, running a bookstore is way more difficult and complex than I was expecting. Or C, running a bookstore is the most fun I've ever had and we're making tons of money.
All of the above. No. I don't know. Probably A with a little bit of B, and the fun part of C.
So what were you expecting?
I don't really know. My past experience with books has been more like libraries, because my mom was a librarian, so I've always been surrounded by books. I had to learn more of like manning the internet and pricing and things like that, but...
Jori, you have a lot of strings to your bow. The 2 things that seem to unite all of your various interests and occupations are a belief in community and a desire to do good in the world. We'll get to all your other occupations, but first the bookstore. When Camille approached you about buying into Alexandra Books, what was it about the investment that appealed to you?
Actually, Camille and Dylan and I have been friends for a long, long time. And we both separately had this idea to buy the bookstore. And the mutual friend was Alexis and Will, the other owners. And they're kind of who brought us together and said, y'all are both interested in this. You should do it, right?
So we see things online all the time. My friends are always, let's all buy a beach house together. Let's all do this. Let's all invest in this. Here's a house in France. But nobody ever does it. How did it get from just talking about it as an idea to actually saying, we're really going to do this?
I'm a big proponent of kind of pushing forward, even when you don't have all the answers. I think we often fall into this thing where we have great ideas, but we don't really follow through on them. So I did a lot of pushing.
Yeah,
maybe
I was
more.
probably the most hesitant of all of them.
Perhaps she's the most wise. But yeah, I think really our motto is kind of, we'll keep moving forward, we'll keep making the necessary steps, and if it's not supposed to happen, it's not going to happen. And then it did. And oftentimes we kind of look at each other and we say, we bought a bookstore, and freak out a little bit. You know?
So did you all have like savings that were marked for future random purchases, or did you have to use your life savings? How did you all come up with the investment?
So we dipped into our savings And yeah.
I honestly, whenever I heard the bookstore was up for sale, I started hanging around Barbara, the original owner, kind of just hoping she would adopt me or that we'd come up with some crazy plan where I could slowly pay her over time for the store. And that is kind of what happened. We approached her and we said, look, we're really interested in this, but as young as we are, we're all either just getting our families started or kind of just graduating from, school and masters. What can we do? And she graciously responded in a way that we've worked out this fabulous plan where we can kind of go through it over time and pay back for the bookstore. So it's really a community effort all the way around.
So the most important question, the one I hear most in the community when they were talking about this is, do you still have the cats?
We do not have the cats. I know, it is a common question.
It is.
And a common sadness.
Are cats on the business plan eventually?
We do. There's a large portion of our generation, I think, that is really actually interested in having dog treats in their businesses, right? If you go to Dat Dog, that's something they do, right? And they have their dog bowl. So we're interested in things like that. We love for people to bring their pets. Somebody brought their dog the other day. For us to bring our cats is more of the infeasible aspect. And Barb likes her cats too much, so I couldn't take
yeah,
them
we
forever.
could. They weren't in the.
So let's talk about two decisions. The decision to buy retail in a market that supposedly is pretty bad for retail, even though the trends are saying bookstores are doing better, and the decision to open the store in a new location.
For me, I think going into retail was kind of a scary idea, especially, like you say, as something that's kind of dying out. But a common theme amongst all of us was that we believed that higher learning and the ability to read books is such a pivotal point to growing, right? And we felt that was more important than our fear of maybe it going south, because of it being retail. So that really kind of drove us forward. We all had that common idea.
And how did you choose the location, or did the location choose itself?
I think it chose itself. We didn't really have many other options.
And you've opened on Johnson Street, which is nearer the university, a lot more students.
Yeah, so we looked at one house before, but it was just more expensive, and then we just kind of stumbled across this building, which is also an old house. So we really like that. It has like the wood floors, the old doors. Even we've had people come in who, like, their relatives used to live there, their grandparents or aunts and uncles, which is cool for us and for them. And apparently one of the previous residents was either like a teacher or librarian, so they were like, oh, they would love that it's a bookstore now. Yeah, so it kind of just picked itself.
So what do we expect when we walk in? Are there new books, old books, a mix?
It's a lot of old books, but the whole premise is come in and spend some time. We'll direct you to a certain section if that's what you want, but it's a rambling bookstore, right?
So it's like the setting of a romance film.
I would think so, yeah.
Yes,
like
they're both nodding for
serendipity,
that.
very,
Notting Hill, it's...
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which to us is part of the experience.
Do you have date nights there? Is there like a whole date night thing that you can do?
I would like to set that up eventually.
I mean,
I think
went
that's
on a
happening
date
soon.
at the previous Alexander books, and now I own it. So,
So it's a good
Yeah.
place for romance to start.
So
we
you
could
should go,
we could have singles nights.
yeah.
Absolutely. And there are some, there's a lot of precedents for people that are doing this within bookstores, coming up with events. There's speed dating nights that people will do at bookstores sometimes. I've had multiple requests. Hey, if you could open, past 6 and serve wine, I'll literally go on a date there.
Because bookstores, we all have that kind of that love of them, and there are romantic, obviously, novels set in bookstores, but there's something special about them. So how much does that create your marketing plan? Is it just we open a bookstore and you can find us, or do you have a deliberate how you reach out to the community?
A large part of my aim in reaching out to the community is focused on this group of people that are really excited about small business and local business. You see that around town, right? So that's reaching out to communities that I also know would be very interested in our events. Rev, Dat Dog, all of these places downtown that have this same kind of vibe. So that is a large part of the marketing plan, is reaching out to our other small businesses and asking them to partner with us in many ways.
And we have a very strong small business community.
We
and I
do.
think it does everyone good to go, oh yes, and here's the local bookstore. Mm-hmm. Because a town without a little local bookstore is quite a scary place, I would think.
I agree,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we didn't have one we're the only one, really. So
Jori, how do you fit in the bookstore? I presume you do the marketing for the bookstore, and I could be wrong on that, and all the other things you do.
a lot of delegation. Delegation is key. I don't necessarily, we have someone who runs the marketing for the bookstore, but that we kind of, a lot of it is team effort, right? We're always bouncing ideas off of each other. For me personally, and all the things I do, I always have another team member that's involved in that with me, so I'm not carrying all the load. The hope is in the next few months to kind of hone in and focus on the things I really love, but currently I think it's a common struggle for millennials. You know, you've got to do what you love and make money too. So.
I think millennials and creatives, and you happen to be both. So is the bookstore primarily to make money, or is it also a kind of a passion project so that there's a bookstore in town?
If we ever make money on this, I'll be highly surprised.
So it is another one of your do-good projects, really.
It is.
I mean, money was not the main goal. If we make profit, that would be cool. You know, but yeah, I think it was, like, we all knew that it was risky and we might not make money. And that's why we are doing, like, events and other things besides just selling books, although books are still primary. But yeah, it's more just to save the store, because I don't know that what would have come of it if it would have even still stayed.
The old Alexandra books, bought and sold books, can people bring your books in to sell them to you?
Yes, we do virtually the same process that they did. Right now, so we take
talk us through that process, because people don't know it. So I look through my bookcases and realize I've got some beautiful old books, or just books I don't read anymore. I bring them to you. What happens?
So we take paperbacks for store credit, and we take basically all paperbacks. Hardbacks we give money for. Just depends on, like, if we can sell it. Usually we try and do what we can sell on the internet, because the store is pretty stocked right now. So right now we are pretty picky about the hardbacks. But yeah, it just depends how many books we have.
It really depends if we need more Stephen King when we already have 10. That's kind of how that goes.
Yeah, but generally, and a lot of times people just donate. Maybe I'll give them a few dollars and then they'll just donate the rest. Because, I mean, we can't afford to buy that much. If it was a really expensive book anyway, we probably couldn't afford it.
You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Aileen Bennett. I'm talking with Jori Bercier and Camille Carloss from Alexandra Books. We'll be right back after this very brief break. You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Aileen Bennett. I'm talking with Camille Carloss and Jori Bercier from Alexandra Books. Jori, why do you think people love books this way? I mean, they're just a manufactured item. There are thousands of them printed, and yet, what is it about this item that makes people love it in this way?
I think there's a general desire for returning back to basics, to be authentic, to take more time for self, right? That's why you have all this self-care stuff going on, right? And I think a book is a really good example of that. So I think as people are more and more on their iPhones and all of these different things, the idea of holding something physical in your hands that you own, that doesn't do anything for you but contribute to your higher knowledge, that's a freeing thing, I think, for people.
Or entertainment.
But even entertainment, like good, solid entertainment without
a screen,
you know, damaging your eyes as much.
Yeah.
And also they get involved in the stories, and the stories provide them with memories.
We actually released a new tagline that we're kind of releasing over the next few weeks, which is sharing stories, right? That's what it's all about, is sharing stories, having people come in to share their stories with us in casual conversation, share their poetry that they've written, or trade in their old books, right, and pick up a new one. So it's a large part of it.
So it's very popular these days to have coffee shops inside bookstores. Is that something in the plans?
Well, we do actually have like drip coffee, Rev drip coffee. We are playing around with the idea of having like a full-blown espresso bar coffee shop. Just kind of difficult with, pyramids, etc., etc.
Turns out that opening a coffee shop in a bookstore, you can't do impulsively. We tried.
Yeah. Or a bar.
You managed one impulsively,
With
you
alcohol,
just can't
but they
do the
said
other.
no, not on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all
With
sorts
alcohol.
of grease traps and things you have to have.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's probably in the future.
Yes, absolutely.
But we do have some sort of coffee right now.
So we can get a
Yeah.
coffee and sit down and read a book for a little while.
Yes, and we have seating as well. If people want to study, we have Wi-Fi. All that stuff.
So is the plan, I know this started off as a cute little bookstore and we're just going to do it because we love to own a bookstore and we love this community. But what if someone came to you and said, let's take your sweet little bookstore concept and I'm going to make this nationwide?
I would say no,
Yeah.
honestly, and reason being,
And once she said no, you'd all have to agree or she would, yeah.
what's that?
Then we'd all have to agree.
Yeah.
Why no?
I say no because I believe the beauty of it is that it's one of a kind. So I'm not opposed to someone saying, hey, let's go to Minnesota and put in a bookstore and call it a different name, but it needs to be organic. I think if we made a knowledgeable chain, hey, Alexander Books is going across the nation, it would lose some of its appeal to people.
Yeah.
It would lose some of that authenticity, some of the uniqueness that it offers. So that's why I say no, is I think it would just lose some of the charm it has.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be Alexander Books if it wasn't founded by the Alexanders, in that space for nearly 30 years. I mean, it would just be like, they have chain bookstores, they exist, but it's different than a little...
We don't want to be
yeah.
Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
Camille and Jori, this is the part of the show that we call the interview. They both look very nervous right now. Whether you've been on a job interview lately or you've been on the other side of the desk and had to hire people, there's been an interesting trend in the job interview. It consists of asking job applicant questions that test their ability to think through a problem. I have a list of 20 of these questions in front of me. I'm going to ask you each to pick a number between 1 and 20. And I'll ask you a question and let's just see what happens. So who wants to go first?
You're eating.
I go first.
Okay.
17.5.
17.5. I'm taking that as the choice that I get to pick between
There
17
you go.
and 18.
That's nice.
What is the last gift you gave someone?
I am actually not a gift giver. So I am really not great at giving gifts. But when I do give gifts, it's usually very intentional, more in the aspect of service. So oftentimes, if I know somebody really likes Doritos, I will bring them a bag of Doritos, right? And that's my way of gift giving, never something super huge. So that
Gift
kind of
giving
sums it
is
up.
one of my love languages.
Really? Yeah, not mine at all.
That's really interesting. What do you think in an interview? What would I know about you from the way you answered that question?
I think, hopefully, you would know that I like to live very much in the moment. I like to be present to people. I believe that my presence is more important than, not that sounds so egotistical, but like
My presence is
individual-
more important than
Yeah.
any present.
Yeah.
But individuals, I think, offer more than any gift I could buy. So I would hope people would recognize that I'm kind of down to earth, not that I'm cheap or...
And you're driven more by good causes than you are by actual objects.
Hopefully, yes.
I think that's come across a lot. You've got the job.
Thanks, good.
Camille,
Oh, I have to pick a number.
you have to pick a number. Don't pick
7.
17. 7. Okay, this is one of those things that it's illogical, but let's just see how you get there.
Okay.
How many people flew out of Chicago Airport last year?
Is that really an interview question? 4 million. I don't know.
And I think it's asked in interviews where they just want to see how you are with something you just don't know, whether there's a logic to the way you work it out. How did you get to the answer 4 million?
I don't know. I mean, I figure Chicago's pretty big place, and millions sound better than thousands.
I love the way you do it.
Do you know the answer?
No, I have no
Okay.
idea of the answer. And I think it's one of those where the answer isn't important. It's the fact that you actually came up with a number. Most people are just like, I don't know. So I think it's great that you actually said something. We'll look it up after the show. So I want to ask this question, even though I think we already know the answer. How is your friendship standing up to be in business together?
Some days it's difficult.
Yeah.
Tell me about those days.
Yeah, you want the juicy gossip? I think poor Camille and I are probably the most different personalities you could get. We think very differently. We have different priorities.
Yeah.
So oftentimes there are days where our opinions are just absolutely different on how we should handle something. I don't know if it's ever gotten into full-blown fights. It's never gotten into fights.
Yeah, it hasn't gotten that bad.
But I do think, for me at least, she'll have to speak for her own. I certainly admire Camille very much. And we've been friends for a long time. And I think the common goal of why we're doing this, that's what always brings me back to, I chose these people, like we chose each other for a reason to do this. And that always kind of grounds me again and says, all right, we have a common goal, let's figure out what we need to do.
Camille, what's your version of this?
Wait, what was the question?
Camille's trying to figure out if
You're
how
still
much she wants
friends.
to...
So tell me, what are your different priorities?
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know what our different priorities are, but I would say it goes back to what we said originally, like that I was the most hesitant about buying the bookstore. So in general, I'm the one who's like, well, let's think through everything. Jori's more impulsive and wants to do all the things. Alexis, I think, is a good middle ground.
How do
And
the
then
other
guys.
partners, how do they balance it out
And
as
then
well?
the husbands are
The husbands
they're
just do
there
what we
for
say.
support. No, my husband's gonna listen to this. They're there for the physical strength. No, I'm just kidding. They also offer input, but yeah, I don't know. They're very both. Will and Dylan, my husband, are very like calm and down to earth, pretty easygoing. So yeah.
And Alexis is a good middle ground. Alexis is more logical than I am. I'm pretty emotional sometimes. I'm like, yes, let's just do it. So Alexis,
So we have the full go, let's just do it. It sounds exciting. We have the let's be
do
really
nothing,
careful.
yeah.
And then we have a logical person in the middle to balance them both
it's
out.
really,
Yeah.
really good, actually.
And we're all like, the reason we went in together was not just for money, but also we're like very, very different people, and we all have very different backgrounds with our disciplines with school and just in general. So it's a really good mix of all kind of different ideas.
Yeah.
So do you guys have plans to buy another business together, and what would it be?
Hope not.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Just in the sense of, I think we have our hands full.
If
right
we
now.
did, maybe it'd be a coffee and alcohol bar.
Yeah, right. Or
Which
a
is what
cat cafe, just to appease the people.
Yes, we now know how many people like cats.
Yeah.
But there are also a lot of people that could never go to Alexandra Books
Yeah.
because of the cats.
We do
so,
So for every like 10 people that are sad about the cats, there's that one person that's like, I could never go in because I was allergic, and we're like, thank you.
Yeah, it's validating.
And you're not just retail, you're not just selling something, you're also offering an experience. People love to
Yeah.
come out and hang out with old books.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I would so unless you're coming in for something really specific, which is a gamble, we might have, we might not, I would say to try and like plan to take a little bit of time. Not that we are a museum, like, but just like there's a lot of rooms. It's kind of like sometimes you get lost. There's a lot to explore, and it's better just to take your time, to plan a little bit of time if you want to come.
And so you like people to wander around and browse. You're
Yeah.
not following them, asking if you can help them and trying to sell things to them.
Yeah, I mean, when they walk in, I ask if they look looking for something, and we can direct them kind of where to go. Because it is kind of difficult to like find things, but that's also part of the fun. But generally people just want to look around, and it's fun to rummage, and you might find really random things you never thought you would buy or you never thought you would find.
And it's a good place for a date.
Yeah, yep.
It is. I think the first day we opened, we had somebody spend 2 hours there just browsing through random books.
That
Yeah.
would be me.
Oh, yeah, you were there, right?
You'll know when I come, yeah. As human beings, one of the things that sets us apart from other species is that we look for explanations. We weigh things up. We think things through. Other animals don't do that. You don't see a dog pondering about whether it would be a good idea to chase a ball. Let me make it perfectly clear. I'm not likening you to dogs, Camille and Jori. But it's refreshing to meet people who don't see business and life in general as a series of individual plus-minus calculations. You're both embracing the bigger picture and going after the greater good. Thanks for saving Alexandra Books and for everything else you're doing for us in Acadiana. And thank you both for taking the time to join me today on Out to Lunch.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
My guests on Out to Lunch today have been Camille Carloss and Jori Bercier, co-owners of Alexandra Books. You can find out more about Alexandra Books and about Jori's other interests and occupations by following the links on our websites, krvs.org and itsacadiana.com. The producer of our show is Grant Morris. Our technical producer is Eric Morrell. Our researchers are Anne Christian and Ali Coates. If you want to know what we all look like, you can find photos from this show on our website, itsacadiana.com, and on our It's Acadiana Facebook page. These photos were taken by Lucius A. Fontenot. You can find out more about Lucius at lafphoto.com. You can get this show and past shows as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify. And you can find out about all our podcasts at itsacadiana.com. You can also keep up with us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. You'll find those links on our website, itsacadiana.com. Out to Lunch is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsacadiana.com and KRVS 88.7 FM. I'm Aileen Bennett. Thanks for joining me today. I look forward to meeting you again next week around the lunch table for more business, Acadiana style, on Out to Lunch.
Out to Lunch Acadiana is recorded live over lunch at Cafe Vermilionville in Lafayette. Cafe Vermilionville is open Monday to Friday for lunch and 6 nights a week for dinner, with a courtyard that sets the scene for fine Louisiana cuisine. The Out to Lunch Acadiana theme music, Encore Monsieur Nice Guy, is written by Mitchell Foreman and performed by Mitchell Foreman and Andre Michaud. Out to Lunch Acadiana business consultants are Pete Prados from Innovate Acadiana and Destin Ortego from The Opportunity Machine. Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Short & Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas. Support for Out to Lunch Acadiana comes from the Wyndham Garden Lafayette, located off Pinhook near Khalees Saloon. Wyndham Garden Lafayette is a pet and family-friendly hotel with reception space for large and intimate events, free parking, free Wi-Fi, and a free shuttle within 3 miles that includes the airport and downtown restaurants.